All right, ladies and gentlemen, the weekend has officially started early on Sportswire Radio, and with good reason, because our guest tonight has won his first major championship in 17 years. And if you're looking at him here, now he has been on Sportswire Radio several times here. I lost count how many times he's been here. Just about for the past year or so, and you're certainly looking at him, he looks like a man that is dressed as a champion. He has certainly come of age, as some would say. We just saw him in the ring as the resident rock star Sean Jovian. We're going to talk about this here for sure, plus who knows what else is on the mind of the new champion. It is certainly one for the ages on Sportswire Radio. I promise you. He needs no further introduction, but because he has been on here so many times here and he is now a champion, he is going to get that introduction that he has been so used to, and many other people here that are tuning in usually get. So, with that, wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report, number one global sports show, the brand new RCW World Underground Heavyweight Champion of the World, the new Messiah Nicholas Crenson. The champ is here.
Tom, I absolutely love your introductions. You always put so much energy into those, and those are just wonderful. Anytime I'm on here, you always just go all out with those intros.
Well, I first have to ask you, as I have a lot of comments here, and I'll get to that. Have you been playing the song "We Are the Champions"? We are.
No, actually. Like I love Queen.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, but that's actually my least favorite Queen song.
Okay, well, certainly, I'm not going to go into a discussion of favorite Queen songs, but I just figured because it's the first time in 17 years you have held a major championship that maybe you would have a celebratory song here. But I've got a lot of comments. I want to get to everybody here. I've got some obviously guests coming on here in the next 2 days. I'll announce here. One of them has already been announced, but I'll announce another one here for you. But for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, I'm going to ask the obvious question here at the top. How does it feel now, finally, after over 17 years, to be a champion and the RCW World Underground Champion?
Well, that's a kind of a catch-22 because one, it feels wonderful to say that I'm a champion again, but
we didn't believe it. I got to be honest. You were a punchline these last several months on Sportswire Radio. You have been.
I know.
I have used you even with British wrestlers that were wrestling on big shows and main events. Your name came up as this guy that was like, yeah, he'll never win in championship matches. It's almost like a foregone conclusion, and yet here we are.
Yeah, and you see, the whole, thing was just, would I ever win the big one? Heck, with this last match, it was win or no more.
And it was referenced during the commentary that pretty much, is this going to be the end of Nicholas Crenson in championship matches?
But that's, getting this, as awesome as it is, as great as it is, and as amazing of a fight, because that's what it was, a fight.
Oh, I don't think it was more. I think it was like a war almost. I mean, I don't want to say it was Zelensky and Putin, but it was basically you guys were like mano a mano.
Yes, and I'll say this. I even said it after the match. I will. We may not always be on the same side or agree, but I will always consider Sean Jovi a brother, and he is by far one of the hardest. Like, after this, I will say this: nobody hits harder than Sean Jovi when he is motivated to kick your ass.
Well, he definitely did some things to you that definitely
Yeah, it's
would
healed up
recognize.
now. It's actually healed up now, but like when we were done, I noticed that he one of those slaps during that slap off we had busted my lip wide open. Um he went to town on me, but par for the course. As great as this is just, winning the title is one thing. Awesome. I'm a champion. I can say I'm a champion. Great. It will mean nothing if I don't make it mean something.
Sure, and that's one of the things, as I'm sure you're aware of, over the past 4.5 years on Sportswire Radio, we have had on a who's who of champions, not just in wrestling, but professional sports. I've had on World Series champions. I've had on guys that have played in the Super Bowl. I've had guys that have played in near the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. You name it, college sports. We've had champions on. It's always a matter of, okay, now you're on top, but what do you do to stay on top? 17 years it took you, but now what do you do to basically stay on top of the mountain here, Nicholas Crenson?
I fight. That's what I do. I just fight. I fight and I bring everything I have to keep this belt going on my shoulder, time and time again. And I'm not gonna be, one of these people who waits for for management to make a contender match, or for Mark Packer to announce something. No, I already can tell who the people that already have got their
Well,
shots at me
you
on the line.
mentioned some names, and obviously I've got some people that want to comment first. So let me get to them because a lot of people patiently have been wanting to talk to you. So let me get to them first, and then we'll talk about maybe as a segue into that. First, I want to give a shout out to Skulls, the Soul Hunter, who apparently is arriving to WC, and I guess you're going to meet Skulls in about a matter of 3 or so weeks from now. So Skulls is going to be there at the next show. He says. He says hello, everyone. The man that you took the RCW World Underground Championship from, will have an announcement for shortly about. Sean Jovi, the resident rock star. If you are on YouTube out there, go follow him at RCW Rules. It says Ring of Destruction just finished airing. I was watching it. Can't wait to see the new champ on the show, which he says. My guest tomorrow night in your chair, Omen Black, the IMF champion of the world, says, well, who finally got a belt again. Congratulations, Crenson, but that title would look so much better on my shoulder. Well, I'm going to ask Omen about his championship defense because he's going to be defending his title in a triple threat match at Rage in the Cage Saturday at IMF. So we'll certainly talk a lot with the champion for sure. And big shout out to our friends at the IMF. Follow them on YouTube at IMF Wrestling
Yeah, I was
56.
kind of like a little bit out of it the other day when I did that promo. So yeah, I meant Iowa, but I was so knocked loopy by how hard Sean hit me that I mentioned
Well, you
Ohio.
look like your eyes still
The,
might be
the,
closed a little bit, but
there
there's
probably are some people in Ohio that I could probably also deal with, but
okay, all right. Well, I want to get to you first with this championship, and I'll let Iowa and Ohio figure that out. We're going to talk a lot about them tomorrow night. Very excited about that. But based on his post-match promo, he sounds more interested in some
yes,
guys from
that's
Ohio. Which
yeah.
we're gonna get to that in a second. He meant Iowa, but it was worth a giggle. And then Omen says, "Let's see that energy in September." I think that's referencing the WCE IMF war coming. Looks like the Pringle guy. I mean, are you a Pringles fan by any chance?
Not one of my favorite snacks.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess somebody says something. Actually, this is actually a good one here. Before I get to more comments, what are you wearing?
I just go out and get stuff like this all the time.
You
Like
haven't
I'll
been a
find
champion in 17 years. There's all of a sudden almost like
this
birthday
like
suit, graduation, communion. I mean, 17
so
years
I
ago.
have this.
All right.
I've had this for at least this jacket here. I've had I would work with wear shirts like this, but I've had this jacket here for a few weeks. I always like wearing suit stuff when I'm
We've had you on here many times on Sportswire. I can never recall an instance that you dressed like this. To me, it seems almost like you were out in the town in Wisconsin celebrating with that championship, trying to do your own version of Ric Flair. That's what it seems like to me tonight.
Just because I hope somebody gets this reference. I feel more like just looking at myself right now. I kind of think I more look like a like Hunter S. Thompson.
Okay, all right, yeah, I've heard that one before. Okay, so let's move on here. Nicholas Jim Ross Crenson, I think
By
Crenson.
God!
I want to give a shout out actually to somebody who was also in the ring and successfully defended their championship from our friends over at ROEW Backyard Wrestling on YouTube and Instagram. Our guest a couple of weeks ago, that is Mr. Jason Storm. Congratulations on the title win. Make sure you hold on tight. You never know where Jason Storm might show up. He's from Michigan, so Michigan and Wisconsin, obviously Midwestern states. Who knows, right?
Perfect timing. Jason Storm. Oh my. Oh my.
There's
All right.
something you want to say? Do you want? And I have more comments, but we can come back to them in a couple of minutes. Now we spoke about opponents, and you referenced a couple of different things. You said it in your promo, and here tonight we've had a few different things already spoke about. What would you like to say in terms of maybe the future plans for Nicholas Crenson, the new Messiah?
Like I said in my promo, I said, Dash Andrews, I
Darkfire.
Darkfire, Jay Stereo, I know he's been, I mentioned Jovi, he wants to rematch, he can have it. I'll also say this, like, yes, he's holding the interstate title right now, but because, I will admit he's beaten me more times than I can count. Even James Marshall or Catalyst has a shot coming their way. And I love, how do I say this? Everybody's talking about you know you know everybody like Craven, Jovi. We've got these guys that want to come in from IMF, and that's great.
Right.
But if you're coming to wrestle, you know why are you coming to wrestle because you're repping a brand? Rep yourself. Get yourself. Go there for yourself. Come here for yourself. Come here to fight because you want to fight.
Well, what are you
If I'm a,
saying though? I mean, are you saying that when you have people from other places, let's say IMF
no,
as an example, or Skulls
I
as an example, or these other guys that these Johnny Come Latelys, a C2K, or these other people that talk about WCE. What are you trying to say here, Nicholas Crenson?
if you're coming to fight, you can wave yes, you're from IMF, you're from RWA, you're from ROEW. Don't, you know, yes, it's great you can fly the colors for those brands, but me, yeah, I'm in WCE, but every time I step in the ring, I represent myself. I don't represent WCE. I don't represent
But you're
like
a
anything.
WCE cornerstone guy. I mean, what are you
Yeah, I'm one of
saying?
the
You're one
four.
of the guys
I'm one
that
of the
people
four
look at and say
cornerstones.
WCE Nicholas Crenson. I mean, Sean Jovi's a veteran. He's wrestled different places. I think people look at Jovi, and in a way, Jovi might be WCE, but Jovi's one of these guys that, in a way, he's very much goes to his own beat almost. You've
Yeah,
always
and
kind of
that's
been seen a WCE guy, though, through and through, which is nothing wrong with that, by the way. There is nothing wrong
look,
with that.
and I can see where people get that, but like Jovi, I'm as winning a championship and representing the championship. Yes, that's one thing because when you're a champion, you want to build up that championship. And
Right.
I like I said, I'm throwing out names. I mentioned Darkfire. I mentioned James. I've got
Dash Andrews,
people.
you mentioned, was on the show last week.
Yeah, Dash, Adonis. I still, we're still me and Adonis are tied. Um, Dash for definitely for sure. Prince Charles, just because I saw something very special when I watched him in Craven fight, and that kid's got a lot of heart. And then you've got the guys from IMF like the Omen Blacks, the Soldier GPs.
I would
You've
throw
got
Prince in there, Remington Stryker. Those would be the two other guys that I would say at IMF, that those are guys like you have your
you,
cornerstones in
you
WCE, in IMF. Those are your kind of cornerstones.
you've got guys like the comment right here, Jason Storm from
DJ
ROEW.
Black. Also, you got Jacob Collins. You got a guy that everybody talks about in Jack Delta, who's in ROEW.
Ooh. See, that's the thing is like I would like, another person I wouldn't mind, stepping in the ring with for this is Anthony Steele.
Well, Anthony Steele's another name that has certainly been brought up. And he's mentioned WC Anthony Steele.
And you know what? You just mentioned him. And I'm gonna say this right now. Hey, Jack, anytime you want a shot at this, come find me.
Wait, are you? Let me get this straight, because I have a lot of people in here, and I see people are coming in and out on Sportswire. Are you actually? Because this is unscripted. We were speaking off the air, and you were saying, "Well, I'm gonna just say whatever's on my mind." I'm like, "Are you sure? Are you actually now Nicholas Crenson, the RCW World Underground Champion of the World, calling out the destructive Jack Delta, the man that has wrestled in state after state? He has basically been coined here on Sportswire. I've been everywhere, man, aka Johnny Cash. Like, are you sure that you're calling Mr. Delta out?
If he wants, if he would grace us with his presence, if he would like to have a shot at the RCW World Underground Championship, this championship, in some way or another, has been around since 2007.
Yes, no, there's no question that the lineage in RCW speaks for itself, and I would even like to throw in some guys in DKW like Matthew Forsaken and Darkron. Those would be two other guys that have certainly been locked up in a war with IMF. They're coming back to Sportswire. I mean, there's a lot of people, certainly, I am sure, that would want a shot. Go ahead, before I get to more comments.
What I was going to say is, like, just look at if you don't know some of the lineages of the people that have held this, yes, Darkfire's held this. Sean Jovi's held it multiple times. I want to say the Gib, Belial, Rex Renegade, aka Rex Ritchie, Nathan Gus had it for basically a cough. You have so many people have held this belt at some point in time, and that's where this feels a little bit more important to win, because me and James Marshall.
Well, you and him last year were locked up in a war for the interstate last year. We had
and
on the same spot.
And that's the thing is, like, even if I don't have the belt, if I'm involved in a championship picture, I'm going to make that title important. And that's what somebody who wants to be a champion needs to do. But that's also what a champion does, is because you make this belt important in the ring. But you do everything you can to make it important.
Are you saying you would do things differently than the resident rock star Sean Jovi has done? Because he's held that title for 594 days was his run.
Yeah, and his is a technicality because he retired it for a bit.
Right.
But
he brought the title back.
But would I do anything necessarily differently?
I ask this question a lot to wrestlers that challenge and then win a title. Tomorrow, for an example, we have a guy, Paul Mallon, who in England is challenging for a world title, kind of a similar title than the one you have. And I'm going to ask him the same question. I mean, so what are you going to do, if anything, differently than Jovi's done?
So there is like something that I've been kind of meaning to do here, for a while, and we kind of glossed over it with they kind of glossed over it, and I remember it from his first defense with this new championship belt design at Luck of the Draw, and that is that there is a set rule set for the championship matches. Unless there's a special stipulation, there is a certain set of rules with this, and that's the thing. Like, one, all unless specified otherwise, all the RCW title matches have a 30-minute time limit. 2, there's a 20 count on the floor. And 3, there's no champion's advantage with this belt at all.
And that was something that Jovi felt going into this match, that he basically had the home field advantage, and that's why he felt confident in the fact that he was going to retain the title and make sure that you never get another crack at that championship. And he was even kind of referencing that in the match, basically saying, "You will never ever get this championship shot again." So certainly Jovi felt confident. But I have comments. People want to talk to you, and I really want to get to them because people have been very patient, and I want to make sure people also, while you're at it, follow Wrestling Championship Entertainment, please, at WC Heat on YouTube, Facebook, WCHeat.com. And if you're also on YouTube right now with us, continue to give us a follow on Sportswire Radio. Also a sub, like, whatever it is. Support us. We really appreciate people tuning in. Now, Nicholas Crenson calls himself a wrestling god like JB.
Nah.
That was a good one there by Skulls the Soul Hunter. Step aside, Baron Corbin. Happy Crenson is where it's at. Oh, you do seem happy. I want to give a big shout out to our friend J.R. Wynn, who's always rocking that WC merchandise wherever it is, all the way in the state of Oklahoma. He says, "Congratulations to Crenson. I may have to invest in WCE." And I think a man you know very well, the man O'Mashinisk, one of your fellow colleagues from Vector, is in the house, Mr. Tyler Ark. He meant to say the champion is here. The champion is here.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Tyler is a good kid.
A good guy, but certainly spelling, he wouldn't have won a spelling bee, but that's okay. That's here nor there. Hey, tell Packer I may have to come over to take his commissionership position. Well, we'll have to find out. I was the only one saying that Crenson was going to get that championship from Jovi, but don't get too comfortable. Me and a couple of others may be coming for a visit. I'm going to get to that shortly. Darkfire is here. Crenson, you are next. And this was a good one from Omen, by the way. And I want everybody to tune in for Omen Black tomorrow because Omen's going to have a lot to say before his championship match over at IMF's Rage in the Cage. Looks like Teddy Roosevelt from Night at the Museum. That was a good one here. And Darkfire says, "Hello, what's happening, buddy?" But Tyler Ark wants to fight for the championship. I think he's got to focus on Vector, right? So I would have to say that.
So... And
yeah,
I said this when I was naming off names. I did mention both Tyler Ark and Zero as people that.
But we haven't seen Zero. We haven't seen too much of him. Zero. What's going on with Vector?
He's dealing with some personal issues right now.
Okay.
And
we wish him well.
Yep. And he's kind of getting some, some things straightened out on his end there. And like me and I know Dirty Dead Skin's kind of helping him as things are going on here. But like, me and Tyler are basically holding down the fort as far as in the ring now.
Well, Tyler, we're expecting some big things for it because obviously he was a part of a big triple threat match that just took place at Ring of Destruction. So obviously, I'm sure one of these days we'll have to talk. And I think Omen just kind of comments about Tyler Ark and the grammar issue. So yeah, he'll have to fight those. But I had referenced in my introduction of you coming on through our Facebook and YouTube social medias that the last time you were a champion was in 2006. And Nicholas Crenson, in 2006, these were the last sports teams that had held a championship. The Carolina Hurricanes were the Stanley Cup champions. The Pittsburgh Steelers were the Super Bowl champions. The St. Louis Cardinals won that year's World Series. And the NBA champions, which almost wasn't too far off, was the Miami Heat. And obviously John Cena was dominating the WWE in the middle of the Ruthless Aggression era, along with Batista. And then we had predictably Jeff Jarrett, obviously, and TNA Impact. And that
actually, I think right at that point, if we're going back to like 70, like when I won it on Friday, we go back to 17 years. Oh, actually, yeah. Even if we went back to when I won the belt originally in 2006, Jeff Jarrett was the NWA World Champion.
And that's my point, was what I was trying to come across, is that that's the last time you were a champion. I mean, this is like, have you thought about that? The last time you were champion, what the world was like? I mean, we had George Bush as president. We were in an Iraq war, and, we were a different world. There was no YouTube. YouTube might have just been in the early stages. There was no Facebook. There was none of what we have today. And it seems almost like a generation ago, Nicholas Crenson, that was the last time you were a champion. All those things I rattled off. I mean, what do you say to all that? And have you thought about those things?
Kinda, I also like, as great as it was when I won the. Okay, a little bit of story time. So the last major championship, not necessarily the last championship, but the last what we're talking about, the last major championship I held, I won January 21st, 2006, from the now late and great Damon Knight, and as wonderful as it was, and I'll even say it, back then I wasn't called Nicholas Crenson. Like back then, there was no Nicholas Crenson. There was a kid named B.G. Childs who just happened to impress the right people and put on a show for 3 months straight and got the opportunity of a lifetime. And as great as it was, I wasn't ready for it.
Okay, I mean, did you think though, because it happens like this a lot of times, and a couple of similarities that I have here is we're on Sportswire Radio with the brand new RCW World Underground Heavyweight Champion of the World, Nicholas Crenson, is I had a wrestler on from the LWF, which is the Lancashire Wrestling Federation, who I actually got to meet, Reynaldo. Reynaldo was the world champion last year in the LWF, and he had not been a world champion for 10 years. It was a big deal. He was a veteran. He was at the twilight of his career, makes a comeback, wins his first title in 10 years. And there was another wrestler that we referenced called Bentley. You might have heard of Bentley from GT Ministries, Bolton Town Wrestling, and he was kind of, as I compared him, almost like the modern day Lex Luger of British professional wrestling. Now, he wins the world title, but loses it less than 5 minutes later. So, I mean, the parallels, I think, between those two most recent guests and people that we know on Sportswire is that they, A, had long droughts, or B, couldn't win the big one. You fit in both of those categories. So, I mean, what do you do in order to, I guess, avoid this where you basically go 17 years, not win a championship? Now you hold the title. I mean, what's your thoughts on those comparisons even?
So, and they're a fair comparison. So here's the other thing that, like, more kind of going back in history books here. I won the YWL undisputed heavyweight title at 17. I was 17 years old when I won the belt. I kept it for about 21 days, and I did not lose. Like, I myself did not technically lose it. I ended up in the emergency room, and I was not able to defend the title. No.
Ooh.
And then, I did eventually get another shot of it later in 2006, against the legendary Timothy Mecca.
Oh, we know that name very well in sports.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, and
Sure, we know him well.
we all, every one of us loved him.
Yep.
But here's the thing. When I faced Tim Mecca, I also, how do I say this? I injured my back against Tim Mecca.
Right.
And that after that injury, I basically I wrestled like 2 more shows in October, and I was out. I'd come back like for 2 more shows in 2007, and at that time I was still going through school and stuff up, and I was living in a different area. But the major thing is that, like, at that point, my body, even at such a young age, after that back injury, my body just wasn't the same at that point. And I would come back periodically. That's why I don't say I've been wrestling for 19 years straight.
So you're not doing the James Taylor on us, where you say I'm 23 years, but really,
like I
there
am.
was a
I will
break
say,
in between. I didn't do it. I did, but I
so
didn't.
how I phrase it is, like, I have been involved in wrestling in one way or another for about going on 19 years.
Okay.
But from 07 to 09, I didn't wrestle until what we have a thing here called Sawdust Days. I wrestled that, and I still, I felt like something was there. And then I did, then I went and I lived down in Texas for about a year in 2010, 2011. And then I did Sawdust Days 2012. And just as I was doing Sawdust Days 2012, that's when what was WPSW at the time decided to shut down. Thank you, Bizzo. Love you, buddy. But I understand why he did it. He was getting tired of the whole thing. And it took like I always wanted to get better, get better, get better, get better, get back in the ring. And it took a few kind of, I'll say this, a few factors kind of getting happening in my life to where I did get back into wanting to wrestle again. And the birth of basically what you see here, Nicholas Crenson.
Right.
Um, one major one was the death of my father
I'm
back
so
in
sorry.
2017.
I'm sorry to hear. My condolences.
Um, after that, I lost my apartment. We ended up, my dad passed away. And then we finally, where we living up north, where we used to live, my mom sold it, and me, my sister, and my mom got this mobile home that we're living in right now here in Nina in the Fox Cities area. And I grew
Okay.
up in the Fox Cities. That's why I was involved in all this backyard wrestling back in the day, is because I grew up here up until I was about 17 years old, and I had to move. And that's one of the reasons why I
Well,
didn't really wrestle as much either, was at
well,
the time.
let me ask you a question, because you said something interesting, and there's people tuned in, and there might be other wrestlers that don't know this. And frankly, we really haven't touched upon this on Sportswire tonight. And I have to ask you, and how did the death of your father maybe in a way influence or not influence your career?
Um,
If you want to
the,
go there, I know it's a touchy subject. Certainly, it's out.
yeah, like I will say, like my dad was my hero. My dad is the reason why I'm involved in wrestling, because he's the one who showed me pro wrestling. He showed me it 2 times in my life, and I fell in love with it both times. Like here's a little thing. Like, I don't remember being very very little and watching wrestling, but
Mhm.
like from what I understand, when I was like a toddler, my favorite tag team is a wonderful tag team. Some people might know them as the sheep herders, other people might know them as the bushwhackers.
Yep. And we know, unfortunately, one of the bushwhackers unfortunately passed away recently, which we
Mhm.
certainly want to
and
give
then
our thoughts and prayers into. Sure.
another the match that really kind of where my memory of wrestling begins is Goldberg and Hulk Hogan for the WCW World Title.
In the Georgia
Me and
Dome, we're coming up on the 25th anniversary of that, actually, in a few short
my
weeks.
dad was flipping through channels, and he's like, "Oh, Hulk Hogan, what's he doing?" And we both watching, and instantly I was just hooked, because it was something so captivating to
Yep.
me. And then as I got, I was like 10 years old, about 10, 9, 10, going on 10 years old at that time. And
Hmm.
slowly I started going to, like, I'm not sure if you have them around there, but we'd go to Family Video, and I would rent old WCW pay-per-views.
Sure.
I would rent the WWF pay-per-views.
Yep.
I literally fell in love with wrestling watching guys like, you know, Rey Mysterio, Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, I'm gonna go with ECW too. Like, ECW
Hey,
is probably
I
my
remember
biggest
ECW very well from New
influences.
York. Sure.
My biggest influences in wrestling is Steve Corino,
Sure.
because he is the example of, he can do anything. He
I mean,
can
him
make a
and Dusty
crowd.
Rhodes in ECW. Dusty Rhodes kind
Yeah,
of got another life in wrestling, really, because of ECW. Certainly that kind
and
of helped ECW live for a little while there. So sure, absolutely.
I always study wrestling. Even when I was little, when I first kind of started training, I was like, okay, this is really, the whole intricacies of wrestling are baked inside of me, to the point where I never stopped learning. I never stopped looking at stuff to watch and study, from the King's Road era of New Japan, of all Japan, from, you know 20, early 90s New Japan, and now going from the 2010s onwards of New Japan, Pro Wrestling Noah, when Masao and Kobashi were going at, um early Ring of Honor, early TNA Impact, or Russo's Aggression era. You want something really really old, looking up old IWA Japan deathmatch tournaments with Cactus and Terry Funk, looking up like Nick Bockwinkel,
Sure. You are
and
former AWA champion. Sure.
mhm, and and that's why I say I don't yes, I haven't wrestled straight for 19 years from 2004 July 10th 2004 onward. It's on and off, but in some
Right.
way I have kept my head in the game and studied everything I could from then till now.
All right. Well, you definitely did that. I want to let people say hello because a lot of people have wanted to say hello and talk, and I want to make sure that I get a chance to speak with people here and let them be a part of the conversation. I thought Tyler Ark wanted to face Skulls. Omen Black says, looks like the Colonial just got back from the safari getting the 11 herbs and the spices. Skulls, that was a good one, I have to say. 2006 was when Skulls won a belt in EAW. JR Wind, why does Skull refer to himself in the third person? Yeah, I don't know.
I think
Yeah.
he's either got the Rock syndrome or Bob Dole syndrome.
Yeah, I was gonna say both because I actually kind of got that. That was kind of reminding me also of the old SNL Bob Dole skits. So
Yes,
that was a
Bob
good one
Dole,
there.
Bob Dole.
But James Marshall is here. I want to give a big shout out to our interstate openweight champion. Just checking in on before work and seeing the Dollar Star Marlon Brando Godfather. Okay, well that's a good one here. I want to give a big shout out to our very good friend here, Mr. Combat Joe, and I appreciate you tuning in. And certainly we have to get together for a show on Sportswire very soon. So please message me off the air and catch me. You can if you're on Facebook. Definitely give me a message, and we'll make something happen here. Absolutely, my friend. Omen Black, ECW was the best. Rest in peace, New Jack. Absolutely. And growing up here in New York, obviously in the shadows of where ECW famously was in the old Elks Lodge in Queens. Also, the ECW where Johnny Rods had trained a lot of the guys like Tommy Dreamer, Taz, the Dudleys in Red Hook, Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn. I grew up literally I would say about 7 or 8 subway stops away from there. So it's
You
definitely,
know,
guys, say something, jump on.
I was gonna say I love New Jack, but nowadays whenever I think of New Jack in New York, I just think of the transit incident. But was that
Yeah, I
New
mean,
York?
look, certainly, that's something we could definitely talk about here. I'm sure at some point down the road on Sportswire. But, we speak a lot about what happened in terms of you being a champion, all these different things. But, there's a point to be made going back to Sean Jovi. And here's why I'm going to mention the resident rock star, especially for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, is that resident rock star never tapped out. He wasn't
No.
pinned 1, 2, 3. So hypothetically speaking, you talk about all these different names, right? I heard Darkfire, I heard Dash Andrews, and Tyler Rock's thrown his name out there. James Marshall, your old foe from last year, you brought up, and even at the start of this season. But hypothetically, shouldn't the name that you should really be throwing out to as a first shot is the man that actually gave you a rematch after you lost at the last show and the resident rock star himself, Sean Jovi? I mean, don't champions automatically get to invoke their rematch clause? I mean, I can get you why you want to talk all these different names or even IMF guys, Anthony Steele, Jack Delta, but what do you say about Sean Jovi getting a rematch?
And I said this after the match. Any Sean can get his rematch anytime he wants. Anytime, he just has to say when he wants it. But I also know that he is kind of shifting his. I know he's about to shift his priorities.
How do you say that though? We don't know what
Well,
priorities are on the minds of Sean Jovi.
he. How do I say this? As much as this means to him, and he will. I know anytime he wants it, he'll come and get it. When he'll
But
come and
shouldn't
get that
you that
rematch.
you said anytime, anywhere, right? But you talked about all these different names, Nicholas Crenson. I got to go down the line here, and here's why I'm going to go down the line in a second. But shouldn't the first man to get a crack is the man who held that title and who gave you a chance, a lifeline, to take that RCW title from him? That is Sean Jovi, the resident rock star.
Oh yeah, like I agree. He should be the first one to take a crack at me. I am giving Sean the choice of when he wants to face me again for this. Like the ball is in. You want to we could say the resident rock star. I'm gonna just say, because after this match, this is what he is. The ball is in the Rockstar Warriors court right now.
He's a warrior. He is definitely a warrior. I would definitely agree with you on that. And before I get to my announcement about Sean Jovi, and here is why I had mentioned that, I want to say hello to a couple of people. Again, James Marshall, after the Ring of Destruction match against the Midnight Devil, someone mentioned mid-card title. My ass. I also want to give a big shout out, by the way, speaking of big names, the nemesis, James Taylor himself. I mean, doesn't get as legendary as him. Now, before I get to my announcement, he says hello. Nice belt. I mean, you didn't mention James Taylor. You mentioned Anthony Steele. You mentioned Jack Delta. But the man who's got the experience, who we sort of touched upon, with the nemesis himself, the Stone Cold Steve Austin, some would say of the South. I mean, what do you say to that?
Good point.
And then Mr. Roman Black even further says, you did sort of mention in that post-match promo. I mean, do you open yourself up now by what you've done? Because you have wrestlers from other places, big names, right? Big names, right? James Taylor, the nemesis, right? Omen Black's been here with us. You got all these different people. Jason Storm from ROEW. You have Combat Joe. You name them, they're here tonight. Have you opened up a Pandora's box, in your opinion?
If I didn't try to open up Pandora's box.
Craven Rage doesn't do that. Craven here says, I'm the greatest. I smash him. And that's it, right? Sean
and
he's in here. He didn't do that. But you actually seem to, you're even saying, I'm not really WC. I'm Nicholas Crenson. I'm the champion. There are certain people, and listen, God bless them for the way they want to go about things, but you're taking a different route as champion.
Like I'll say this. Yes, I'm a cornerstone of WCE. I'm one of the four cornerstones of WCE.
Yep, I would agree.
The last one to win a title.
You were the last one in a lot of places.
Yeah. I mean, listen. But it's I want to be a champion that means something. And I'm not going to just, I'm not going to be the champion who goes around and saying, oh, I'm the greatest. I smashed them and I stacked them.
Or even like in England, we'll have wrestlers come on and, how can I put this in a nice way? That they basically they have a promotion, they own the company, and they make themselves the champion. And then they basically put their friends around them and they pick who they want to wrestle. And they make that person the champion. I mean, listen, God bless anybody, right? I mean, who am I to judge, right? But, you seem to be taking a totally different approach. You want to fight the best out there in the world, it seems, apparently.
I want to make... Okay, here's a little lesson for anybody in backyard wrestling, in wrestling in general. Guys like the IMF World Champion, Omen Black.
Yes.
Wonderful. Any DKW champions, the ROEW
I got James
champion,
Taylor, the legendary James Taylor.
James Taylor.
Jason Storm from ROEW has been here in the house. I mean, a lot of big names tonight here.
Jack Delta, he was like an EBW world champion.
He's a Hall of Famer now, by the way. Backyard Wrestling Nexus Hall of Famer.
Here's the lovely little thing, gentlemen. You can you can have a championship and hold it, and without the quality of without quality opponents, without putting on a fight, putting on some of the best matches you could possibly think of, and doing your damnedest. Guess what? If you're holding a championship and you're just bragging about I'm the greatest, it don't mean jack shit.
Well, what it almost reminds me of here, before I get to more comments, it reminds me of when Mike Tyson had come back into boxing after he had come out of prison, and they make him the world champion, and but Don King puts him up against these opponents that how can I put it? they were like nobodies. They were basically like the Simpsons episode where Homer fights for the world title. And it was like he was fighting guys like Peter McNeely, Bruce Seldon, Frank Bruno. These weren't real competitors. So it seems to me like Nicholas Crenson, there's some real competitors out here tonight. Like, for example, DKW. I mean, you got some Darkron, you've got Matthew Forsaken, their company's champion, James Taylor, the Nemesis, Omen Black. I mean, there's a lot of big names here. I mean, so there's people here. Tonight they've taken notice. Maybe tonight, because you've won a championship for the first time in 17 years, that it's a big deal. So that's all I'm saying. But speaking of people that you took a title away from, and I'm going to come back to him as to where I'm going to ask him these questions that you've been getting peppered with tonight and from comments. The resident rock star himself, Sean Jovi, is going to be in your chair Saturday night, 11 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're like me, maybe you're going to go to the movie Saturday afternoon, going to watch Transformers or Spider-Man again, or maybe Fast X one more time, head on over here tonight to Saturday night, 11 p.m. Eastern time, 10 p.m. Central time, to hear Sean Jovi and hear if he's going to maybe invoke that rematch clause, if he's going to go a different path, as you might say, or address some of the things you've had to say, or the different challengers that are here on Sportswire Radio that you could possibly be facing. So that's something that you should definitely be looking at. And I want to make sure people also know that Omen Black is going to be in the house tomorrow night in your chair, and he's going to be talking about IMF and his championship. So a lot of busy moments here on Sportswire Radio. I hope that you're going to be a part of them. And if you are listening and watching this, wherever you might be, I hope that you give us a follow on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, my personal page at Tom Bryce. Also, YouTube, give us a subscribe and a follow, whatever you want to call it, at Sportswire Radio, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/player. And if you don't want to see the long hair, the mutton chops, or the mugshot, you can listen to all of our shows on sportnarium.com/player, because we simulcast all of them. And I'll be back here again, 8 p.m. British Standard Time tomorrow, with Paul Mallon ahead of his match for the NBPW title against Tommy Rocker. So we'll have a lot to say, I'm sure, from Mr. Mallon. But right now, in the meantime, we are here with Nicholas Crenson, the new Messiah, the brand new RCW World Underground Heavyweight Champion of the world, his first major championship in more than 17 years. So, Nicholas Crenson, you talked about the fact that the last time you held the major title, right? You held it for 21 days. Is that correct? 21 days? And now, correct me if I'm wrong, technically this would be going on your 7th day as RCW World Underground Champion, right? Now, July 8th is coming up, right? July 8th is coming up. Now, that would mean, I guess, another couple of weeks. So you'd basically be on par for that 21-day title run. So how much are you going to be thinking about that first run in order to avoid those pitfalls of basically being a one-and-done champion?
I'm just not going to think about it. Like, I could, it's going to always be in my head. It's something you can't avoid. But screw it. I'm just going to ride the wave and do my damnedest to keep this belt around over my shoulder, around my waist, or around my neck, however I have it positioned on that day. I don't, and I'll say this, I don't want it easy. Because
you seem like tonight you're certainly making it extremely difficult on yourself, and the amount of challengers and potential people here that
and that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, a championship is only as good as the wrestlers who are fighting for it. And I'm throwing the names, I'm throwing names like Darkfire. I'm saying Jovi whenever he wants his rematch, he can have.
I'm going to ask you now. You heard it here first. Saturday night, Jovi's here. We don't know what state Jovi's going to be in. I'm going to ask him how he's feeling and what he says maybe to when he wants this title back.
I'm saying names like Jack Delta. I'm, throwing Anthony Steele's name out there. Let's throw James Marshall, James Taylor, throw in Omen's name in there. And, throw in Soldier GP, throw in throwing names out there because these are some of the best wrestlers out there. And if I want this championship to mean anything, I have to be willing to fight for it.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? We're going to certainly
And
find out here. Go ahead. Jump in.
and I love that Jovi added those stipulations to this belt, unless for the regular normal
The
RCW
pure
title
rules.
match.
Yep.
Not pure rules, but just the 20 count and
Yep.
the disadvantage, and also the 30-minute time limit. I don't know if anybody's actually going to, me and anybody will actually reach that time limit. Who
Well, I mean,
knows?
you and Marshall technically last year had a match that went
Yeah.
past that. Can't say never
And
say never. You did have a match that was past 30 minutes last year.
you know what? Actually, you know what? We're gonna do something better with this. No, we're not gonna do 30 minutes because you never know what's gonna happen. Um, all matches for the RCW title, and I'm gonna make this, in here. All matches for the RCW title have a hard 60-minute time limit. Now, who knows? Maybe somebody will take me to the limit. Maybe, maybe I will, go the distance with somebody. Who knows? It's nearly impossible nowadays with some people. But the reason
Hey, we
why
saw
I
it at
say,
AEW TV. We were speaking about it off the air. I mean, time limit draws can happen from time to time, and they used to happen
yeah,
a lot way
and
back in the day.
the thing I like the best about the rules that revolve around this belt, unless there's a special, stipulation like what we did at Ring of Destruction, um, there is no champion advantage. Like, I can't have Vector interfere on my behalf. Like, everybody thinks that Vector was made to do that. No, Vector was made because
Well, I'm still not sure what Vector is. I mean, because Zero,
it's
we haven't seen much of Zero. Tyler was supposed to wrestle Marshall. We didn't see that. Obviously, we saw him at Ring of Destruction. I mean, I don't know what to make of Vector, honestly. I don't know.
Vector. The whole purpose of Vector is just doing what you want. Just doing what
Well,
you
you
want.
seem to
And,
be doing what you want. I can't
uh,
quite get a read on the other individuals. I mean, I just
you
can't.
know, like I said with Zero, he's dealing with his own things, and Dirty Dead Skin's helping him right now. And Tyler has been kind of training with me, and
Tyler,
I'm
I think you probably have to. I'm going to say this very kindly. He's probably the one who most has to go under your wing. I mean, that's kind of apparent to me in a number of different
and
reasons.
here's the thing, as you can give Tyler all the guff you want about him. Here's the thing: he wants to get better. He wants
Okay,
to
well, you can
improve.
want to get better. I mean, but it doesn't necessarily mean you get better. I mean, there are some
Right.
people
It
that
takes
try
time.
every day to be wrestlers, and David Flair tried. He went to the developmental after
Here's the thing, though.
WCW, and he didn't quite make it. I mean, there was David San Martino out there, and he tried also. And that listen, there's a lot of stories of people that try. They try their very best, and it doesn't work out. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that Tyler can't cut the mustard just yet. We're going to certainly give him
It's
the
gonna
benefit
take
of the doubt.
time. It's gonna take time for him. And the
Okay.
reason why I took him under my wing, and I want to help him improve. Um, Tyler Ark, if you look at him now, that was me when I first started. That was how
But that
I
was
was.
19 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, and
I mean,
19
Nicholas
years.
Crenson, 19 years ago, a lot of people here were like, they don't really have memories of that. But, I'm curious here before I do something in a few minutes that you'll be very surprised about here. And this person wants to pay their respect to you. And in a second, you mentioned his name. I'll get to that shortly. But for a match that you win through, right, where you win through all this brutality, all this physicality, I would dare say some of the stuff that I saw in this match between you and Jovi, I would dare say that this was the most physical, most personal match in WC history, at least from what I've seen in recent memory. And what you put yourself through, Jovi, what he put himself through, there's no question that you guys may or may not be the same. I'll ask Jovi his thoughts on that Saturday night. But I almost have to think that was it worth it? Your body can't be the same right now. You challenge all these guys. You're eventually going to be somebody's opponent in a ring on July the 8th. I mean, what do you say to all those things?
Like, is my body gonna be the same? Hell no. Was
No,
it
because what
worth
you
it?
guys did in that match, the slapping of the chairs, the cussing, the tables spots, the rock bottoms. I mean, just the physical. I mean, we can go on and on all
It
day. The
took
outside stuff. I don't think there was as much stuff I've seen, at least in recent memory, in a WC match than I've seen between you two. To tell you the truth,
here's the thing. Do I regret it? Hell no. I couldn't be more prouder of that match. I couldn't be more prouder, that I won this match and I had to literally practically kill Sean to take this belt from him. I had to hit him with not one, not two, but three last goodbye knee strikes. I
we
had
saw.
to
I mean, it was almost like everybody was like, "Is it enough already?" I mean, people were like,
I
you know,
I, I had to basically elbow his brain until he was basically concussed and knocked out to take
well,
this belt
that's
from
why
him.
we saw basically he didn't get counted to three. He didn't submit, and he was basically like he was a Stone Cold Steve Austin or a Bret Hart, in other words, where Stone Cold didn't tap out, he didn't get pinned, he just basically he passed out from the blood. Or there's
And
other examples we could go on all day about, and that was one of those.
and
Instances there with Mr. Jovi.
like you can't like yeah, I didn't pin him, I didn't submit him. I knocked his ass out. I
Okay.
knocked him out.
But would it have been more satisfying if you had pinned him or made him tap out? I mean, would that have, or it doesn't matter to you, any means necessary? Because it did seem like what we saw at the show prior was almost like it's any means necessary. Nicholas Crenson's up to his tricks to get this title shot. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, listen, I had on, for example, a wrestler that's a current champion right now, Disciple. Disciple has held 2 world titles. He currently holds the Nonstop Action Wrestling World title. And a lot of people had felt the way that he had won, especially the GT Ministries title, was almost like a cheap way. Now, I don't think this was a cheap way that you won the title, but there's a point to be made that Jovi wasn't pinned. He didn't submit. He just passed out. It's just that's all. That's all I'm saying here. I mean, obviously, look, you're the champion, and listen, in the record books, it doesn't matter how you got there. You are
Yeah.
the champion, and congratulations. And certainly, it's a long lineage of legendary RCW champions. So at the end of the day, you can't be any more happier. So obviously, you did the right things here. So I mean, what do you want to say to anybody out there that doubted you, or anybody that was skeptical of you ever winning the big one again, because you were such a lightning rod, such a topic on Sportswire? The 4.5 years I'm doing it, I mean, you were literally almost like the butt of jokes of guys ever winning the big one almost. I mean, you were like the punchline. You were like the Buffalo Bills, where it's almost like ESPN had to do a 30 for 30, basically showing, you know what? They weren't losers after all. I mean, you were right up there with the who's who of losers in history, but no more. What do you want to say to anybody that's doubted you, Nicholas Crenson?
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. Because
thank you.
yes, because
Please explain. Thank you.
here's the thing. The doubters, the people who doubt you are, the people who want you to succeed the most. But also, it's the people that fuel you to get better, to do what it takes to become a champion. And you know what? Here's a little thing. Here's a little tidbit for you, Reverend Tom. Nobody's my biggest doubter than myself.
Okay, tell me why.
I've always, and I will say this is still surreal to me. I've always, said to myself, I would never truly be a champion. I would never truly be a champion because there's something I'm missing. And I still kind of get those doubts and those surreal thoughts of, this isn't real. This is just a dream and all
Well,
that
I think
stuff.
you were the championship belt again, because It's 17 years, right? Wrestlers, in a way, they get a title and they win it
Um,
every couple years.
yeah,
It's
and
17 years.
here's the thing, Tom. Like 4 years ago, yeah, no, 5 years ago. Like this is just after we moved down here. 5 years ago, I wasn't thinking about getting back into wrestling.
Well, your father died in 17, so that's 6, right? So you obviously had that on your mind. That had
Yes.
to be a big
Yeah,
gap.
that'll be 6 years on the 20th of October. Um, but no, there was like one, his passing that affected me a lot. But the other big thing was in 2019. Me and my mom were driving home from getting lunch, and I was a car. No, not a car. A pickup truck ran a red light at the intersection as we were coming through and T-boned us.
Oof.
And here, not just T-boned us, T-boned the side that I was on the passenger side. I had like maybe a few bruises in here and there. And my mom, she ended up having to have stitches because the mirror from my car flew in and smacked her in the head. We had my old border collie mix, Bella was in the back seat, and I'll say this, the two things I was worried about when that accident happened was my mom, making sure she was okay, and my dog, because
Sure.
my animals are are
Well, it's
basically my
almost like,
child.
listen, John Wick and the dog, right? That's always the running line. Like, you could say what
Um,
you want about John Wick, but don't kill his dog or don't try to hurt his dog.
but it's also the fact that that accident could have been so much worse.
Right.
And after that, I went back and did some training for a bit. Then COVID hit, and I was still wanting to do the training, but with my health conditions, COVID was kind of a big kind of
Yeah,
keep
COVID was
lockdown.
tough. Listen, there was some wrestlers. If you were Yarder, there were some wrestlers that continued, others didn't. If you were in England, for example, you didn't do anything. Promoters didn't open up until like almost in some cases into fall of 21. So that had to be another doubt for you because you're going through the loss of your father, you're going through the car accident,
Um,
COVID happens, so you have
yeah,
all these things. It's almost
Co-
like, hey, I'm never going to be a champion. Almost probably felt like.
COVID happened. My mom ended up mid COVID, mid 2020, ended up getting diagnosed with colorectal
Oof.
cancer. She went through chemo and she got better. And then the like and then around 2021, Craven reached out to me. Craven
Mm.
Craven reached out to me about the idea of being a part of something. Like I'll say, I'm not repping WCE. I rep myself, but no, I do kind of rep WCE because WCE is
You're a
for me a bit.
WCE guy. Nothing wrong with that. Listen,
Yeah,
WCE provides a home for a lot of people. I mean, there's
yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
and I'll say this, like if I'll rep WCE, like when I'm wrestling at WCE, but if I'm going somewhere else, I'm repping repping
Right.
the belt. If I'm carrying the belt, I'll rep the belt, but I'm repping me, I'm repping the people who support me. But par for the course, Craven reached out to me. I told him that there was I mentioned that there was somebody selling a wrestling ring, because he wanted to start something up, and he actually got that idea from Damon Knight. Damon Knight was the one who gave him the idea to
Yes.
start up backyard wrestling, and it was me. If you want to see how it kind of all began, the chaotic nature of the beginning of us getting the ring, I want to say it's Jovi's vlog one. Excuse me while I find this here.
And I'm going to tell you that in about 2 minutes. When you finish that, I got a couple of comments and a special surprise guest that wants to congratulate you and also address some of the audience tonight. So this is a big one here for you. So hopefully you get to that point here because I want to certainly bring this individual on here because he certainly wants to pay his respects to you. And he's also address some of the audience here tonight on Sportswire, but in a rather respectful way. How can I put it? So certainly, Mr. Crenson, while you do that, actually, we will have some comments. Craven Rage is with us here. There'll be an announcement probably Saturday night with Sean Jovi, the resident rock star, about Sean Jovi. Well, about time, Nicholas Crenson, you definitely overcame your demons. Yeah, this was like more than overtime. I mean, we were talking about almost like 1918 Boston Red Sox. Like, Zero Deus is with us here. Zero is in the house. Obviously, big shout out to Zero. Omen Black wants you to try to knock him out, but he says we'll try, but I guess we'll have to figure that out. So, have you found what you're looking for here, Mr. Crenson? Because I want to bring this individual on here.
Yes. So it
Yeah.
was Jovi's vlog number 30 is when we first got the ring.
Okay.
And, I'm just going to kind of quickly go through this. So we got the ring. We started WC. We did the first year. Then we started the second year. Midway through the second year, like right after crowning achievement, my mom passed away.
Oh my god!
And I mentioned that at the very first vindication.
Yep.
And it was a combination of all these things, and realizing that I never got to let my parents see me be a champion anywhere, really. And
Not even that 2006 run, that magical 21 days. They didn't get to see you as a champion. That's 21 days.
They were never actually at any of. They didn't really come to my wrestling shows because they were old. My parents were older parents. Like they were older people,
but they knew you were a champion, though. They had to know.
Yeah, they knew. It's just that they never really got to see me like really wrestle for a championship or wrestle with a championship. And yes, I've done some dastardly things in the past year. I've always done dastardly things. So.
You've done some dastardly things in WC. What you did to Darkfire. Listen, we love you, Nicholas Crenson. But, I mean, to be fair, you have done some things to Darkfire. Certainly, Jovi, to get you in this position. I mean, you have certainly been a name. You and Mark Packer. I mean, the back and forth that you and Mark Packer had, people are still talking about that.
And here's the thing. I'm not going to, I'm not going to say I'm sorry for the stuff I've done because I always do things for a reason.
Well, I asked if you regret anything. You have no regrets.
And I will say this. Look at everybody who's faced me. After a while, look at them and tell me that they haven't improved in some way after being in the ring.
I think Darkfire has turned around. I would say Jovi has certainly been on another level. This is the best run of his career. I would point out, certainly you mentioned Dash Andrews. Adonis Felios, I think, has improved. I mean, so, yeah, I would say a lot of the opponents, yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I have not faced Dash Andrews yet. That's why I threw his name out there.
Right, but you talked about people you've referenced. You mentioned wrestle.
Oh, no, I meant like the people that have that have been involved in the ring.
Right, well, Darkfire you wrestled, Jovi you wrestled, Marshall you wrestled, Adonis you wrestled. Those four names, we've had them on here. They've improved. But, I want to bring on this individual before we say goodbye tonight because he wants to say hello, pay his respects, congratulate you, and also address the audience here on Sportswire Radio. So let me bring him on. He is the legendary Nemesis James Taylor. You see him in places like Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. He is a social media savant. He is almost kind of like the Kim Kardashian of YouTube streams. He is the man that also hosts the Nemesis sessions. He is no stranger to us here on Sportswire Radio. He wants to say hello from one former champion to another, from one backyard legend to another. We bring on here to Sportswire Radio all the way from the great TBW, Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. Again, the host of the Nemesis Sessions, the legendary James Taylor himself. And my friend, how are you? And good to be with you once again. Certainly did not expect this one, but I've learned never to say never on anything on Sportswire.
Never say never in the business. You're right, Tom.
That's true.
Thanks for having me, Mr. Nicholas. Is it Crenson? I don't know if I'm saying that right. Well, nonetheless, no disrespect, kid. I don't really know you, but I know you're kind of involved in WCE. I kind of only doing a small little homework on you, but I'm always up to watching talent that's within the backyard scene. So my hat's off to you. And I know that you're a champion. Granted, I'm a former champion. Don't have a title right now. That's okay. That's irrelevant to this whole thing. But I wanted to come on here, and I was listening to you, and I wanted to pay or show some respect to you. Before my career's over, never say never. Like Tom said, I'd be willing to face anybody. I'd be willing to face you. I'd be willing to face anybody in the ring if I ever get the opportunity. And the man upstairs is starting to bless me with a lot of things that's going on. My social media has been doing pretty well.
I lost count. I think it's like 3,000 new subscribers since you came on, like not even 2 weeks ago, James Taylor.
I'm at 35,000.
I know, but 35.5, right? We're like 35.5 or something like that.
I was 33 when I was talking to you.
I told you. I've been counting this. Like I said, you're on your way to Kim Kardashian status.
Yeah, whatever that. Okay, but that's beside the point. I mean, it doesn't matter. Even if I have 2 subscribers, I'm still going to put on the same entertainment. That's what I like to do.
Sure.
But I want to do, if it's with all due respect, if I could take maybe like 2 or 3 minutes of your time to address the elephant in the room. I was in the chat. And I just wanted to come in and say hi. I saw my buddy Tom was live, and I've caught some of his past streams, but I haven't got to come in live. I just happened to catch this one live. So I wanted to stop in and say hello to whoever he was. I always like to meet a new face. You know what I mean? If you don't know me, go check out my channel, Taff_Taylor. It's actually just Taff space Taylor on YouTube. You can check out some of my content and see what I'm about. If you get bored.
Instagram as well.
Instagram as well.
And TikTok. Big following on TikTok.
Appreciate it. Thank you. But so there's a little bit of thing. I'm going to take just a few minutes of your time. Is that all right, Mr. Crenson?
Go ahead, sir.
You're good. That's fine. So there's an issue that's been going around in the backyard world. Not really an issue, but apparently since I was last on here, Tom, apparently some comments were said between me and one Omen Black with the IMF guys.
Who's our guest tomorrow night, by the way? Mr. Black is here in Mr. Crenson's chair tomorrow night.
That's fine. I don't hate the guys. I don't hate Omen. Just some miscommunication is what it was. I'm not here to apologize for anything that I said, and I know that likewise they're not going to apologize for anything that they said. It is what it is. I just want it to be water under the bridge because I'm not here for drama. When it comes down to the whole situation in the backyard world, 2K Fed world, whatever it is, whatever the case may be, I'm here to protect my name just as well as anybody else is. And instead of having shade being thrown everywhere, I get a lot of criticism. But hey, I get a lot of criticism, Crenson. This is one thing. I heard you say something about being a champion. You haven't won a championship in so long. You just won one. Congratulations, by the way. But you said something about that got me. You want it to mean something, right? Well, there's an old saying that goes, the championship doesn't make a superstar, but the superstar makes the championship. A lot of young guys in the backyard scene especially misunderstand what that means. They think, if I become the world champion, I'm the top of the mountain. Well, not really. See, when you win a title, it's a matter of what prestige you bring to that championship. So that title you got on your little shoulder right now, what it means is you want to show the ultimate sacrifice that you made to become the champion, and you want to show the world why it means the world to you, not to anyone else, and why you're the top of the mountain in your company, the backyard scene, whatever your goal is as a backyard wrestler. My advice to you, if I'm worth any advice to give, would be is just like I told Mr. Storm from ROEW.
Yes, Mr. Jason Storm, who was here at the very beginning of the show here. Yep.
And since I said something, I don't know if any of y'all watched, but I've seen some fire in him. I mean,
yes, we actually watched his open challenge last night on the ROEW page. Yep, absolutely.
Nice. You should make that the most prestigious title that everybody wants. Make them want to come at you because you should have the biggest target on your chest right now. And you should have everybody want to come at you. I am, throughout my on and off 25-year career in the yard, a little bit in the indie, mostly in the yard. I am a 12-time world's heavyweight champion. I haven't held a championship since I think 2015. And it doesn't mean anything for me to hold it right now because I've established my name to where people just want to face me for me. When you've made it, you've made it when people are talking about you, not how many titles you won, not if you're the current champion. It's because of your ability and what your performance is in the ring. And some guys that like to try and start stuff misunderstand that. Some guys in this business like to present themselves as unbeatable. It doesn't matter how many matches you win. It doesn't matter how many matches you lose. Trust me. I'm telling you from experience, kid. It's a matter of the performance, how safe of a worker you are, just the ability that you bring to the screen, the entertainment value. If you can entertain the fans and you get them talking like, hey, did you see what old Nicholas Crenson did last night? Man, that was badass. That's when you know you got them hooked. And that's what I try and send a message. Anytime I work with anybody, I try and do that all the time. I don't want to take any more of y'all's time, but what I just really wanted to do was just say that a little bit to you. Hats off to you. Lots of respect. Omen Black, if you're still in here, look, kid, I don't hate your guts. You said some things. I said some things. I'm not going to be in character. This is James Taylor, character mode turned off. I respect you. You go do what you got to do in IMF. It's a shame that I was not able to come up there. Life happens, things happen, things get in the way. It's just a part of the life. It's just business. Family comes first before anything else. If I was to be in character mode, when James Taylor ever does show up to IMF, if the doors are open for him, I will walk right in there, walk right up to you. I'll shake your damn hand, and then I'll beat your ass. Simple as that.
All right, but I just have to ask you one, only because Omen is here, and I'm going to read off a couple things Omen had to say. And I don't want to take too much of the time here because I also want to come back to Crenson and quick thoughts here because obviously, certainly IMF is out there with a number of different companies, and I want to at least, to be fair, because also Omen is my guest tomorrow night, and we have a lot of respect for Omen. IMF has been very supportive of just as Sportswire here, WC, along with yourself. Omen feels that in a lot of ways that you promised to come up there and wrestle, and he feels that you have not basically lived up to that, basically to put it in a nice, respectful way, because we know we love you. We also love Nicholas Crenson here, and I want to come back to that, but he feels basically that you said one thing and did another. And do you want to address anything with that? This is not my opinion. We love you. We know we love Omen. We love Nicholas. I don't want to, want to just relay the message that Omen is very upset right now. And in that camp, they're upset with you based over some lack of things that may have not happened. Is there anything that you might want to clarify with that, just because they're watching and other people are out there, and we just want to make sure everybody's on the same page?
So it's nothing but respect, but you got to understand that life comes first. It doesn't matter if I said that I'm going to come up there. It didn't mean that I did not want to come up there because I changed last minute. Life happens. Things happen, and they get in the way. The thing I think that the problem is with the miscommunication is that you're constantly, Omen, respectfully, holding a grudge against me because I didn't go back on my word. It's just life happens. Financial situations happen.
Sure. I can respect that.
It is what it is. I don't hate you. I have no problems with you. It was just the fact that I think you took what I said personally, because some people in this business, not saying it's just you, Omen, if you're watching, but some people, and I've seen it, can't understand sometimes the difference between being in character and out of character. And sometimes
we've seen in wrestling history. Listen, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. I just watched the Bret Hart biography, and there are some that Bret Hart never separated, wrestling in the ring and outside the ring. So that certainly it happens. We understand. CM Punk's another example.
Exactly. Well, I guess in this case, it happens in the backyard world because this is kind of the first of its own thing. I'm 90% of the time, Tom, when I'm on a broadcast like this is a different side of me that a lot
I
of
know, and you do your own show as well, the Nemesis Sessions, absolutely, which I think
you see me on the Nemesis
want to bring on sometime.
I am 90% of the time in character, and when I'm in character, I'm just really good on the mic. I'm not going to brag. I'm not going to really toot my own horn, but I want to give myself a little bit of credit because I really know how to back up my stuff. I back up every word I say when I say it. I do what I'm going to do, when it comes to certain situations, business is business. At the end of the day, business is business. It doesn't mean that I never wanted to not do business with IMF. I reached out to IMF. I liked IMF. I found IMF by browsing because I'm always looking for backyard companies.
I've heard you say that when you brought them on on your show. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. I respect the guys. I have no problem with those guys. And I think they just took it personally, maybe a little too much. Maybe not. I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth. It's just the simple thing that, hey, I said I would come up there when I thought I could. Things happen, and now I can't show up. That I apologize for. But does that mean that in the future I won't be able to? No, it doesn't, because I do plan on doing some traveling before the end of the year, if not all of next year. Because as soon as this YouTube actually takes off the way I want it to, trust me, James Taylor is going to be appearing a lot of places.
Well, I think one of them's in Wrestling Championship Entertainment. That's a company that I think you definitely should consider on your radar. I think ROEW, we spoke about them. Obviously, CJ Black. Also, yesterday, Legendary Backyard Wrestling. I want to give them some shout outs. CJ the Alpha Junts in North Dakota. I mean, that's another company. I mean, there's a lot of places I'm sure that would certainly love to have you. So, I mean, obviously, we want to make sure everybody's water under the bridge. I see Omen is here with us, so certainly let's hope for that. Is there anything else that you want to plug before we let you run and get to some final thoughts with the champion? And obviously, I have a feeling, Mr. Taylor, that I'm going to actually have you on here very, very soon, because we just had a TBW show that was on the YouTube page, the Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. Check out. We have a big anniversary show ahead as well. So something tells me that we're going to have TBW coverage very, very soon. So anything you want to say before we move on to final thoughts?
Yeah, just be sure to check out TBW Anniversary 6. James Taylor versus the Prophet Jay Wild. 2 out of 3 falls match. It's going to be a banger, probably the best match in the backyard. And I'm saying that with absolute confidence. Be sure to check it out. All eyes are going to want to be on this show. The show's going to be great. Big epic matches. Nonetheless, got a big, huge announcement to make after anniversary, and I am going to do that. If Tom wants me to, I'll do that right now.
Oh, you know that the floor is always welcome for you, and I understand from a birdie that we're going to have TBW stars coming on after anniversary. So it is my understanding that you were one of a couple of TBW stars that are coming to Sportswire. So it'll be very interesting, to say the least.
That's absolutely correct. So, Mr. Crenson, while I'm here, I guess before I'm kicked off the show, just figured I'd come in, show my respect. You might not know me. My name is the Nemesis James Taylor. I'm just a guy that looks to put people over and have a good time and have a good wrestling match with anybody. But do you got any questions for me? Do you know who I am? Or do you have anything you'd like to say to me before I go? By all means, say anything.
Yeah, actually, like when I saw your name, I've seen little bits and pieces of your stuff here and there. I've checked out TBW. You ever want a shot at this? You can come up here, or after August, maybe at some point I can find my way down to TBW. I want, like I said, I want to face the best, and you said better. The wrestler makes the belt mean something by the body of work we put into it.
And I got one thing to add to that. There was a common name, Mr. Taylor, that we actually brought up about names that Mr. Crenson also wanted to throw out there as potential opponents in other places. Somebody you actually most recently wrestled, the Destructive Jack Delta, a man that you recently just wrestled, and that was one of the names that Mr. Crenson had on his list. So just maybe there's a mutual opponent there that maybe brings the forces to collide. Maybe the heavens, they move from the earth. Maybe the hell, the heaven, Armageddon. Could it be when Taylor and Crenson square off? 2 backyard wrestling legends, champions galore. Listen, May the forces be with all of us to one day see that summer blockbuster everybody's talking about right now: Transformers, Spider-Man, Fast X, Guardians of the Galaxy, John Wick 4 that came out, Indiana Jones later this month, Mission Impossible next month. But think about it. Maybe to kick off or maybe end the summer, forget about NFL season, anything else. Taylor and Crenson, who knows? Stay tuned, just maybe.
So, if you're very familiar with Jack Delta, I don't know if you watched his match with me.
Well, I certainly did. I did.
Real quick detail. It was an instant classic, a little bit short. But hey, I basically had the match won. I came up on the short end of the stick. But if you watch that match, Tom,
I did watch it. I watched it. I watched it.
I hit him with a stunner right in the middle of the ring, and I had him pinned. But apparently, I had his legs too far over to touch the ropes. Referee saw it. Big mistake on my part. I got in his face, and it cost me. I kicked out of his little Delta driver, and then he hit me with that Rainmaker. Lucky 1, 2, 3 for him, but he earned my respect, and I think I earned his. So, nonetheless, it's beside the point. Crenson, you want to go watch a little bit of a classic? Go check it out. And then maybe down the line, you want to go against the absolute best. The best is talking to you. I promise you that.
Well, we'll certainly have to find out here. And again, everybody, please follow the Nemesis James Taylor. You can follow him on YouTube out there, Taft Taylor, Instagram, Taft_Taylor, TikTok. Check him out here. Also, some other people would like to say hello very quickly. Gaming_for God, by the way, who also asked Nicholas Crenson, where is he from? He is from Wisconsin. He is from Wrestling Championship Entertainment. So make sure you check them out. Give them a sub. Also, WC Heat, sub to their YouTube page, Facebook page. And Mr. Taylor, thank you as always. Looking forward to having you on real soon after anniversary, and looking forward to the announcement you have there for us, my friend.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
All right. And that was the Nemesis James Taylor and Nicholas Crenson. Before we move on to closing thoughts, what's your reactions real quick to the coming on here for Mr. Taylor?
Honestly, it was a pleasant surprise. And I'll say this, whatever the issues they have, hopefully the IMF, Oman, and all them, they'll get that squared out. And yeah, like you gotta, one thing everybody's gotta understand: life happens.
Sure. Listen, and we want to make sure that we don't get into that. Obviously, look, IMF is certainly out there. They're like everybody else trying to make a name out there, and we can certainly, understand. And hopefully, people bring together. And also I have here from Gaming_for God. So, are you guys a wrestling group in Wisconsin? Yeah, it's a wrestling company called Wrestling Championship Entertainment, based out of Appleton, Wisconsin. If you go to WCHeat.com, also YouTube at WC Heat, also Facebook at WC Heat, you can find out more information. Watch the past show that just took place, Ring of Destruction. Vindication is on there. A whole list of shows where Nicholas Crenson, our reigning, defending RCW Rules World Underground Champion, he is certainly ruling RCW here. So that's where you can watch his most recent match, arguably maybe one of his best matches of his entire career, against Sean Jovi, which just took place literally hours ago here on YouTube. So check that stuff out here. So I want to ask you then this last question before I get to closing thoughts. Kind of just segues what I just said. Where does this rank in all-time best matches of your career?
Honestly, I kind of want to say this ranks up at the top, and it's not just because I won the championship. Like, that would always put it like a little high in a higher echelon because I won the championship. No, this ranks up at the top because, like you said, it was a war. It was a war, and I have never been lariated. I've never been clotheslined. I've never been slap chopped, forearm. I've never been beaten so viciously in all my life. And I have wrestled guys like Damon Knight. I've wrestled guys like Craven Rage, James Marshall, Jovi. is he can get his title shot anytime he wants. He also has that rain check for the interstate title. And here's a little bit of a prediction, or maybe a spoiler. Jovi's going to be interstate champion because
I'm going to ask him that Saturday night, though. We don't know if he's done with you. You seem like you want him to go over to Marshall.
No. I would love to face him again. Like I said, it's
Are you okay?
sport.
All right, because I've heard almost not so much on Jovi time. I'm going to ask him these questions, so don't worry.
But no, it's I am so proud of that match because of how brutal and how much of a fighter, a warrior Jovi was in that match, and the fact that he has been like, I had to step up, I had to go all in, I had to go all, pardon the pun, all out to win this from him, because he has been on another level, not just this year, but since the beginning of WC, and he's getting better and better as time goes on, facing guys like me, facing guys like Craven. And here's the thing, he's also improving his physical shape as we speak. He's last week, for the longest time he was weighing in at 350 pounds, and he's a agile big man.
And Jovi mentioned that Jovi's like in the best condition he's been in his
he's down to 339
career.
And he's working on and getting himself down to back to where he was in 2009, which was like maybe 2 something, like where he would be the size of like me or a Marshall as far as that goes.
Well, you're 218, so I mean, if he's moving like that, that tells you the shape that he's really turned his life around in that sense.
And we beat the hell, we tried to kill each other, and you gotta be willing to do that to be a champion and call yourself as champion, is bring the fight and be willing to hit and be hit and get back up and do all it takes. And Jovi, he wants this if he wants the rematch with me anytime,
all right, well, I am
any place,
ask him. I'm gonna ask him that question.
And when he does decide to take, go after Catalyst or James Marshall, whatever version, when we finally get the third match between those two, James is James is the measuring stick of WC.
I agree with you that he's the floor general. I have said this time and time again. People ask me off the air when other yarders talk to me about WC. They always ask me, who's the guy in terms of the best worker, not the champion and who's the greatest. I always go James Marshall. James Marshall may not be the best on the mic. He may not have the greatest. He may not smash him. But what he does in that ring sets him apart with almost anybody else that's out there. So I agree with you that Marshall's the measuring stick. And I agree with you that Justin Jovi could have been interstate champion if it were not for COVID. So I agree with you that we'll see. But at the very least, I have to give him that benefit of the doubt and ask him those questions Saturday night. Another reason why you, Nicholas Crenson, I know will be tuning in, as well as many other people here tonight, because we have certainly heard from a lot of new people out here. I want to give a big shout out for Gaming for God. Give him a sub on YouTube. Also, Combat Joe is in here. We had James Taylor, certainly the legendary James Taylor. Omen Black, and of course, all the IMF guys. Big shout out to them. We're going to have all of them on tomorrow, as many of them as we can get. It'll be almost Rage in the Cage dedication. And also, he says here, Gaming for God, do you guys do wrestling videos, live reviews? We do basically shows every month. WC Wrestling Championship Entertainment is it's a backyard wrestling promotion. We basically do monthly shows in season from about April to October. You can watch all of that content on their YouTube and Facebook pages for more information. Also, WCHeat.com. If you want to buy a shirt, want to buy some merchandise, support. Also, Sean Jovi's got a YouTube page. You can find out more information. RCW Rules. Also, Gaming for God. Give him a sub. But yeah, Gaming for God, to answer your questions, Wrestling Championship Entertainment is a backyard wrestling promotion in Appleton, Wisconsin that runs live shows in season from April to October, which are then uploaded to YouTube at Wrestling Championship Entertainment's WC Heat. I appreciate it, brother. I'm new. James sent me an invite. I'm a wrestler too. And that's why, listen, if you message me, I will get back to you and we'll bring you on to Sportswire. So definitely, Mr. Gaming for God, give me a message. I'm also, speaking of gaming, I'm actually going to have on I should actually give a plug for myself. I will actually have on Nicholas Crenson. You might appreciate this, a professional gamer. I have on a professional gamer coming on here Tuesday night on Sport. I know something different, right? We always do wrestling on Sportswire, but I actually have on a professional gamer. Really excited about this one. This guy was featured in NBA 2K. He was involved. Really an uplifting story. Got a lot to say here about his background and his career. And his name is Watch Me Work 601. He was involved here in a number of different things. He was involved in 2K TV versus the world. He had a documentary a little bit where he had a few things to say, and you can check him out. He's on Instagram. He's on Twitter. Just a really, really interesting guy here. He's got a great story, and going to have him on about 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. That'll be this Tuesday up on all Sportswire platforms. So if you ever want to hear what the life of a professional gamer is, a gaming streamer, this is going to be one that I promise you you're going to want to tune into. I want to also give a big shout out to our friends over at ProZone Gaming Development. Please follow them at ProZone GD on Instagram. Also, PZGD is the hashtag on Twitter. ProZone GD. Also, Mr. Big Snoop. He also got his first streaming payment through Twitch. Want to make sure I shout him out. Also, thank you for your support, Mr. Big Snoop, over the years. That is also here. And he wants to know, what's the gamer's name again? It's Watch Me Work 601. That's Gaming for God. Go to Watch Me Work 601 on Instagram. Also Twitter. If you want to connect with me also on Instagram, I'm at the Sports Report 2021. So if you want to direct message me on Instagram later, we could definitely set something up. So definitely, I'm on the Sports Report 2021 on Instagram. I'm on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, and I'm on Twitter at Thomas Price 2017. That's where you can connect with me, and you're going to be seeing coming up here every few weeks to more gaming content from professional gamers. So, Nicholas Crenson, you've got competition, but that's a good thing. So, Nicholas Crenson, I'm going to give you the floor, give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, say, and congratulations. And I guess I still say you might be saying we are the champions and how sweet it is, but hold up that title one more time for those that are listening and watching. Anything else you want to plug, share, say, and be my guest.
Like I said, any and all challengers welcome.
Wow.
July 8th, WCE Showdown on the Yard. I want somebody who's going to give me a fight. So, who's going to be the first to step up to the plate? Who's going to be the first to make me fight for this? Make me claw and do everything I need to do and find out if I have what it takes to make this past more than just another 21-day reign. I want the best, and I want people who are hungry and willing to put in the work to fight for a championship, because this title, my goal is to make this the most important championship in backyard wrestling. It has a rich history already, and but I want to do my best to make this mean something, because like James Taylor said, the belt doesn't make the man. Or I would say this: the belt doesn't make the wrestlers make the belt. The belt is meaningless, on its own. It's just a prop. It's just a trophy. What we are the ones that give championships meaning. And look at every championship, like not just the championship that I'm holding right in my hand here. Yes, I have fought my damnedest to become champion, and I want to make it mean something. But look at every championship that I have at least challenged for. I have fought my damnedest to help make those belts mean something. And Marshall mentioned something about a comment of somebody saying that the Interstate Championship was a mid-card title. No, there is no mid-card title really in WC. Actually, if you think about it, here's a little nerd statistic for everybody here. The Interstate Championship has main evented 8 of our 18 shows, including this last one, the All Out Championship has main event. All Out Wisconsin Championship has, since its inception, has main evented 4 shows. The RC, this title right here, has main evented 3 shows.
I'm glad you brought that up, because what have I said the last 2 months on Sportswire, right? What did I say? What to me was the best feud in WC the last 2 months? What did I say? Jovi and Crenson, right? What did I say last year was the best feud in the second half of WCE? Crenson and Marshall, right? So at the end of the day, sure, Craven's the champion, and we'll certainly talk with Craven. I have no doubt. Stay tuned Saturday for an announcement. But look at the opponents we've seen in the Interstate and in the RCW. Those have been the opponents that have kept my eye on, and I have said those are the best matches, almost like back in the day when the Intercontinental title was the title that was held by the best wrestler. May not be the biggest draw, maybe the biggest size guy, but it was always the best wrestlers in the WWF, whether it was Bret Hart, whether it was Mr. Perfect, Razor Ramon, Shawn Michaels, Jeff Jarrett, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, the Macho Man Randy Savage. The point is that those titles and all titles in WC all mean something equally. And that's why we love Wrestling Championship Entertainment. And can't forget one more time to give them a sub at YouTube, WC Heat, WCHeat.com, and on Facebook at WC Heat. And also give a friend request if you're out there to the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson, our brand new RCW World Underground Champion, his first championship in nearly 17 and a half years. Champion. Oh, sweet it is. Yeah, put it up. Yeah, don't turn it upside down.
Yeah.
I know you're getting used to being a champion again. I know people are kind of watching. Boy, it's taking him time, but congratulations. Go out on the town. Go enjoy yourself. Go enjoy each moment. Savor it almost like how hockey players would savor Lord Stanley Cup and drink from. I don't know if you can drink from a championship belt, but definitely sleep with it. Go around with it, because this is one you're going to remember for a lifetime.
Oh, I before I let you go, one last thing I want to say is I actually brought this into my work. I work at a telecommunications company as a customer service rep, and like the first thing, one of our security guys at work literally was marking out over it because he thought it was so cool. And here's the thing: stuff like that is what makes people want to be wrestlers, getting those other people's reactions.
It's funny you said that though before we go, because we actually, when we speak with the British wrestlers in some of their towns, they're almost like WWE. In some of the small towns, they're a big deal. So actually, the wrestlers keep the titles, and some of the world champions, like they're their own little towns. Roman Reigns, John Cena, Hulk Hogan. So, it's really a big deal. So in some little small towns in England, they're the only game in town. So they are kind of like what you just said in a way, what it means. So I could certainly see all of that, but congratulations again, champion. Certainly looking forward to having you on here. Certainly, I'm sure after you defend this title and successfully defend it, I have no doubt I will have Mr. Jovi on Saturday. I will ask his responses, his retorts, and I am sure you'll tune into that and savor these moments and enjoy them. And they've certainly been worth the wait. And we look forward to speaking with you, I have no doubt, very, very soon. Now, champion Nicholas Crenson. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was our brand new RCW World Underground Champion, Nicholas Crenson, the new Messiah from Wrestling Championship Entertainment. If you're on sportnarium.com/player, you go back to your regularly scheduled programming. If you're on YouTube, we'll be back tomorrow with 2 shows, one in the afternoon, New York time, with Paul Mallon for the NBPW title. He's going up against Tommy Rocker. And then 10 p.m. Eastern time, a full slate, walls-to-wall coverage of IMF stars before Rage in the Cage, DKW versus IMF, House of Wolves, Soldier, Dirty Donnie, you name them. They're all going to be here with us. You're going to want to tune in. And Saturday night, the resident rock stars in Nicholas Crenson's chair I asked Sean Jovi these same questions Mr. Crenson got. Thank you, everybody, here for tuning in on the number one global radio station. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, on the number one global radio station that is Sports